All right, for this next step, you will notice that once you have all your line work done, sometimes there's some areas that appear almost see-through or a little fuzzy, and we don't want to have that show up in our final image. So I'm going to go ahead and deselect that. So to address that, what we're going to do is go to our magic wand tool. And I want to make sure that I'm on my cartoon copy. I've already added in all the colors and I have it the way that I like it. I'm going to go ahead and select into the transparent background and grab everything outside of myself. And then I'm going to inverse that selection by hitting Control Shift I on my keyboard. And now you'll see that it just has the cartoon version of myself selected in the layers palette. So I'm still on the cartoon copy over here. And what I want to do is click onto my backing copy. And you'll notice I'm going to close out that so you don't have to see it. But you'll notice that everything around the background or inside the cartoon copy has now been selected. So you've got the little dancing ants that are showing up. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of backfill this with the black. So now I'm just going to go over to my paint bucket. I want to make sure that I have it selected as black for my foreground color. 100% opacity looks good. And now I'm going to go ahead and click into the face area. So I got to unlock my backing layer and go ahead and click into that. And now I have that all blacked out. So when I put my cartoon copy back on, any little fuzzy areas or lines that weren't quite showing up correctly are now showing up the way I want it to be. So they're all nice and opaque. And that's going to take you up to step 8, which is applying your face and your hair into the template. So now you actually get to start bringing this image in and putting it over the template. So I'm going to take you back out to Classroom. And I'm going to click on the Papercraft and hit View Instructions. I do give you the Papercraft models. So that is all the models that are listed that I have available for as a template. You could always go on to Google and find an additional template if you like, but they are separated out. So I'm just going to click on the first one here. And I just want to scroll through. I have a ton of different ones that you can choose from, but I'm just going to scroll through and find something that kind of works. I think just for as an example, I'll just click on Princess Jasmine here. And so then I would go ahead and hit the download button. And I would want to open that up into Photoshop. So in Photoshop, back out here, I already have one that's already opened up. This one is just of one of the Disney princesses, Sleeping Beauty. And what I want to do is bring in my own cartoon copy of the face and kind of position it or make it laid out where it's matching up the left side of the eye here. Okay, I'm going to go out to the desktop. And grab this and just bring it in. All right. And don't be worried if it's like ginormous in size compared to everything else. We'll update that in just a second here. But you're going to bring in the image and we want to lower that opacity on down so that I can line up the two eyes. Again, I'm not going to be using the whole thing here. So I just want to kind of start with the general lineup here. And then I just want to make sure that the face is on the top of the stack and that I've got that selected. Now to change the size of it, I can hold the shift key and kind of scooch it in, scooch it out. I really want to make sure that sort of the two eyes are lined up. And again, I'm holding that shift key, rearrange this. I feel like that's pretty good on that side. And I'm looking to make sure that the spacing of the two eyes are fairly similar. And resize for the lips. It's going to take just a little bit of kind of playing around with it till you end up with something that you're happy with. Again, be following through the paper tutorial step by step to make sure you're not missing any of the steps. This is just a really brief kind of overview of it. And I don't need all of this other information. So what I'm going to do is grab my rectangle marquee tool. And again, still on the face layer that I just brought in, I want to crop everything else out. So I think this is going to end up cropping out the lips. So I'm just going to do a little adjustment for the demo. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Now I'll go back to my marquee tool and I'm just going to draw out a rectangle and select that. I'm going to Control Shift I to get everything else outside of the selection, and then I'm going to hit delete. All right, I'm going to have to if you run into any troubles, just try something new. You guys have worked in Photoshop before. There we go. So I just had to rasterize the layer. And now everything else has been deleted that I don't really need, that I'm not going to use for my design. Now I can go ahead and deselect that. So the next step I'm going to have to do is get rid of everything as far as the jawline goes. I'm going to be painting that in. I'll just do it over the top here. So you'll notice that as you squish it on down, it'll have your jawline showing up here and there. So you're just going to take your brush tool, and since I already have a skin tone picked out, I would just go ahead and grab that color, take my brush tool, make sure that I'm on the correct layer, and I can adjust the brush size. And I would just go in and paint out all of the bottom of the jaw and just make sure that it sort of lines up with these outside edges. On some areas, you can go in and add in some more of the hairline detail, or if you need to address anything that's just not quite lining up exactly the way you want it. And that is going to take you through step 48. And here we're going to start addressing the tutorial, or the page, and change out the colors. So what I did is I just used the paint bucket tool. I chose a color that kind of matches the hair color that I wanted, and then grabbed the paint bucket tool and just added that paint in. Let Let me go back to the right layer here. Added that paint into those little sections. You might have to go into some of the fine details up here. Down here, you might have to match the skin tone. I definitely did some color matching with the skin tone onto the arms, the legs, and the hands, just so that when I go and print all of this out, it sort of has a nice flow to it. Again, if you're following along with the tutorial, this is still in step 8. And then if you wanted to change some of the outfit colors, I'll just do it as part of this little demo here. But you could change the outfit. So let's say I want to make this a blue dress instead. So you can see I can go through and use the selection tool, grab my paint bucket tool, and just switch out those colors. I'm going to delete that here because I'm going to go with the pink. There we go. And just make sure everything's nice and lined up. And then that takes you through step 9, where it's going to dive in a little bit more about adjusting the clothing, changing the colors of the clothes, and how to kind of go from there. Now for the clothing, some of the sets already come with clothing designed. So you could add this in as a page too, because we will be printing these off and creating our own little Papercraft models. So for the clothing, again, you could just add it when you turn it into Google Classroom as a page too, and we can print both of those off. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop it here.